tired of having a plan for your week, but the moment you start working on Monday morning, all those plans fly out the window as you're forced to put on your firefighting gear and get to work putting out the infernos of everyone else's problems? Do you feel the frustrations of not having the time to work on what you know will actually grow your business because all of your time is going to simply keeping things afloat? If so, you are not alone. That's what we're talking about today. Today on the podcast, we're talking about the power of proactivity, strategies to shift from firefighting to gardening. Welcome to the HaltingWinter Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Winterhalter. You can also check out our YouTube channel under my name. Just search Seth Winterhalter, and you can see my wild expressions as I chat about today's topic. Before we dive into the topic, let me encourage you to check out the brand new program we have launched this month. It's called Small Business Flight School. It's a 6-month program designed to tune up the 6 major parts of your business by installing proven frameworks that have helped hundreds of businesses dramatically increase their revenue and soar to new heights of success and impact. That's what we're about today, helping you get higher, farther, and faster than ever before. If that is of interest to you, you can learn more at smallbizflightschool.com. That's smallbiz, B-I-Z, flightschool.com. You can find the link in the show notes below. Let's dive into our topic today. How do we shift from firefighting to gardening? Firefighting to gardening. And the reason I bring this up is this is one of the frequent things I hear and observe with many of my executive coaching clients. This feeling of overwhelm, they're overwhelmed, they're stressed. One of the biggest frustrations in their life is they feel like they're just reacting to everyone coming to them, all these problems. And that's at least the excuse I hear is why we're not able to move forward, why we don't have momentum, why we're not growing. So let's define some terms. What do I mean by firefighting and gardening? Firefighting is this. It's when we are when we are reactive, when we are spending most of our time responding to the problems around us that our executive team or our employees, depending on how big your business is, people are coming to you, and this is not on the schedule, this is not planned. Emails are coming, people are coming, somehow communication is coming to you that this is a problem, I need you. And the reality is there's going to be some of this. The problem is this cannot be the number one thing that's happening to you during the week. If you are reactive, if you are responding to things that aren't on your schedule, there is no way you're going to grow your business. There's no way you're going to create momentum to actually move things forward. And what I see is this is a typical reality in a common business workspace. At the first hint of a problem, at the first sign of a hindrance, it's kind of like, if your car is moving along, as soon as there's a little bit of friction, then all of a sudden we are trained to cry for help. And let's just be honest, let's look at life, because the reason we respond the way we do is because we've been trained that way. Okay, let me say it again. The reason we stereotypically respond the way that we do is because we've been trained that way. So let's just go back to the very beginning. Think about childhood, right? What is a toddler trained to do? Cry. If they want help, if they want attention, they cry. Oh, I can't tie my shoes. I cry, and someone comes and ties them for me. Oh, I can't figure this math problem out. Oh, I don't want to do my homework. I cry, and someone comes and helps me. I need help. What do? We raise our hand. I need help. And we're not really trained to have to not only think for ourselves, and we're trained to ask for help first instead of to really mind down and go, have I done all that I can to figure out a solution to this before I go outside of my own ownership? Have I taken ownership? Have I done all that I can? And if I can't solve this, do I have clarity on the information I need to solve it? Instead of just saying, I need help because I felt friction, because I felt a problem, I need to actually do something to get clarity on this. Because if I don't, I am going to massively waste whoever I go to's time. They've got to become like a therapist. Like, is this a mental problem? Is this a you problem? Is this an actual problem? Like, and why am I being brought in? What do you need from me? Instead, that's why, if you're a leader, that's why these things are so overwhelming and they're so frustrating to you, because you're not even being brought good information when there's a problem brought to you. It's just, oh, there's this problem. Let me just vomit all over you. It's usually really emotional. Oh, this is how it's making me feel, instead of, well, what can I do? Like, what is the problem? Have you clarified the actual problem? Have you clarified what you need to solve the problem? No, it's just a vomit of emotion because they're frustrated. We're just acting like toddlers continually, and we got to call it out. Again, it's not, it is their problem, but it's not like you want to, I'm not asking you as a boss now to go whip your people in line and be like, yeah, toddlers. No, I'm saying recognize that this is what happens when we train people from early age to respond in this way. We continue this way into adults. Adulthood, when you reach adulthood, you just don't magically snap your fingers and then get out of all these things. I could go on for hours about how this impacts all of life. This is why many adults are jacked up in their minds. It's because we train them one way in their childhood years and then expect them to just flip on a dime and change when they get into adulthood. Like, well, what? You wonder why, if you're a boomer right now, and I work with a lot of boomers, people of that generation and I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm kind of this in-between nomad, right? Boomers oftentimes will look at millennials, zillennials, whoever, and be like, oh, they don't have any work ethic. Oh, they don't have drive. They don't have, look at me. Well, guess what? You did that. You raised weak children, and now you expect them to become workaholics when they're adults. Like, look at how you train them. It's partially your fault. You can't just do everything for them, right? I'll just be honest, for me even, like, my dad did a lot of stuff. He didn't take me out and train me how to do the oil in my car. Didn't train me he did all that stuff and he was brilliant at it. It was just second nature to him to tinker and figure things out. But because he just took care of it because he didn't want me to mess anything up. Oh, I don't want you to break the car. I don't want you to break the lawnmower. I'll just do it myself. Well, he did it himself. I was never taught it. And then all of a sudden he looks down while I'm adult going, well, why do you take your car to get the oil change? I don't know. You never taught me. And it seems like a waste of my time. I'll just have someone else do it. And now that's looked like that's bad on me. Does that make sense? Like, we have to take responsibility. And again, a little soapbox here, but this is why it's important. When you look and go, okay, what am I doing to contribute to this? What am I doing to create this firefighting scene, because I'm allowing people to come to me? And here's why. I get it. You want to be a help. You want to be like, man, I want to serve my team. I don't want to look like it's above me and I'm not going to help. No, I want to help. So you're coming from a good place, but you're not doing the best thing to actually help your business and your employees move forward. Leaders, we're trained to respond. We're trained to be servant leaders and pour out. So what's happening is you're responding to help them, but you're not actually helping them. You're hurting them and you're hurting your business. Think about this. If you're like, man, well, I don't know. Do I have this problem? Is this me? Let me ask you a question. Who speaks first in your team meetings? Who speaks the majority of the time in your team meetings? Is it you, the leader? Who does everyone look to for the answer? Who's everyone waiting on to give them the insights and the real ways forward? See, we're training our people for two things. And I get it. Like, I remember I've struggled with this myself because, again, when I was young, I wanted to be heard. I wanted to give my opinion, right? And then as I grew into leadership roles, as I started to own my own things, I remember the church I planted, the board, again, strong, intelligent, capable people on the board of directors helping lead the church forward, the organization forward. And yet, like, every board meeting was just like a look at me like deer in the headlights. Well, what do we do? You're the pastor. You've been here. We don't know. And it's just like, man, we got to foster something different here. Like, you are on this board because you're capable people in the lanes that you run in. That's why we have you here, because you have different viewpoints, different voices, different insights. And we need that. We don't need you just to look at me just because this is a church and we're running the church here. We need you. And so you've got to create and foster a culture where people and their insights matter, where you want to speak last. And you don't want to speak last and well, now I'm going to set it straight. You want to speak in a way that goes, man, I value these things. And man, now I've had the time to chew. And yes, there's got to be a leader to lead. There's got to be one person, right, giving the direction to go, because multiple chefs don't lead anything anywhere. I've never seen that work. There's always one leader that's got to make the decisions. It's got to, right, at least take that collective thought and then pitch it forward and beat the drum. But we've got to create a culture then that has people actually thinking for themselves and taking ownership. So what happens then? Let's just go back again, because I want to drill down a little bit deeper. What happens when you create this culture where it's always fires and firefighting? What happens is your team doesn't have they have a lack of ownership. They're not taking extreme ownership. Instead, as soon as they have resistance, they go and look up the chain and go, well, who can help me? And so we create then a situation where people are always looking for solutions outside of themselves, and leadership feels the necessity to then always be doing this kind of work. And again, maybe it's another podcast. Jocko Willink has a great book called Extreme Ownership. I highly recommend it for all leaders, especially in business, to read and chew on and go, man, have I created a culture that has extreme ownership, where my people take ownership? And that doesn't mean they never ask for help. It means, but when they do, it is thought through, right? I would create one of the first action items I would create if you experience this, if you feel like you're doing too much firefighting, you create a simple document before someone goes and asks someone else to help them with something, they clarify some things. They clarify, what is the problem? Why am I coming to you? What do I need from you to specifically help me? Like, make them clarify some things, because otherwise they're going to waste everyone's time just going to whoever they have access to spin and dream up ideas for the solution. But now we're wasting multiple people's times. And that's the issue. If you're the boss, how many people's times have been wasted by the time they even got to you? Probably multiple. And so having them think through, a lot of problems are solved when we just do a little thinking. Think through the problem and say, I want you to articulate the problem on paper. Then I want to articulate who then can speak into this, who and why. Why would they have a unique insight? Is this a part of their department? Am I waiting for them? Think that through. Right. And then that way you can send me an email and say, hey, here's a problem. Here's why I think you can help. Here's what I'm looking for. That way I can say, now, before I schedule a meeting and waste time, I can say, man, do I actually know something, or can I redirect to someone who actually has the answers? This is going to save so much time, because instead of someone just barging in your door and vomiting, or sending you an email that's just vomit and not clarity, all of a sudden now they have to actually do some thinking. Instead of just emotionally responding, which a lot of these firefighting problems are, they're just frustrations. They're just, people are frustrated because they got to deal with people and they got work to do. Instead they want you to solve like the emotional realities of work instead of like a real problem. And so this is going to cut down your time, because it's going to make that person think. And guess what? Probably 6 out of 10 problems will just go away. They won't exist anymore, because that person will be able to calm down and go, okay, this really isn't a problem. This is just a reality, and I just need to grow up, and I need to lead better, right? Especially if you're in an organization where you're the key leader and you have a leadership team. I often find that, man, leaders on leadership teams are not good leaders. The leader of a leadership team needs to spend a lot more time developing leaders than they do overseeing projects. And this is why, because those leaders are tasked, they have skills. But the problem is they're usually just the best of their area. So they become a department leader just because they're the best. But the problem is they don't know how to lead. And so leading, helping them understand how people work, how to motivate people, how to come alongside and actually help people take ownership. This is what leaders do. And so you, as the key leader of leaders, you need to be spending the majority of your time developing better, stronger leaders, because a company will only grow as effective as the leaders are. So you need to keep growing as a leader. Those leaders need to keep growing, or else it's going to tap out. Maybe that's what you're feeling. That's why there's fires, is because it's just tapped out. People don't know how to lead. They don't know how to get people to grow themselves. And because they're not growing themselves, it's just a bottleneck of people. So, okay. What we want to do is we want to avoid this kind of firefighting rhythm, because the leader becomes trained to become proactive, or the leader becomes trained to become reactive and to see everything as a fire. Now, right? Again, I know you want to help, but you're hurting. You're hurting the development of people. You're hurting the mission. And here's the big thing. Let me press into one more thing before we move to gardening. When you do this, it becomes a habit, and habits become ways of life. And even if you start to work on this and go, okay, we're going to put some things into place. Here's a way you're going to write. If you want help, you write that form I told you about. There's some things that you can do, but here's the thing. Let's be honest. You might be prone to firefighting because you're avoiding the hard work of growth. There may be something that you actually need to do. Maybe it's you. Maybe you need to grow to take your business to the next level. Maybe you need to figure out how to grow the team around you. Maybe you need to do some firing and some hiring. Maybe you need to do some shifting. Maybe you need to, right? Maybe there's some work that it's going to take to grow the business that you don't want to do because that's gonna cause some friction, or that's gonna, right? There's all kinds of reasons why we can tend to go after firefighting because it looks like we're doing something. Firefighting looks very busy, right? Firefighters are very heroic. Man, they're putting out fires, they're saving people. Firefighting in the workplace looks very heroic because it looks like you're very busy. Look how busy I am. And guess what? The work of growing a company at times doesn't look busy. What's the boss doing? Oh, they're just sitting in their office staring out the window. You're thinking strategically. You are in like a gardener. Think about a gardener versus a firefighter. That's where we're going to go into the next definition is gardening. Growing a business is similar to gardening. You plant. You plan first. You got to plan, map out the garden to make sure, right? You didn't put tomatoes next to something that's going to kill those things. So you got to plan, you got to map it out. Then you plant, then you water and you weed and you watch and you harvest. And there's a pace to gardening that firefighting doesn't have. The pace of firefighting is chaotic, which is why you feel stressed and overwhelmed and tired. The pace of gardening is different. That doesn't mean there's not hard work, right? I've plowed gardens before. I grew up on a ranch, and our garden was the size of most people's houses, like even bigger, very large garden. 12 rows of corn and all the things. And so you plow and we used to plow it and dig up walk behind my dad with the rotor tiller and get the worms for going down fishing at the fishing hole, and just a good old time. So, but the pace of gardening is different. It's not as chaotic as firefighting. Therefore, it can look more attractive to go after firefighting. Oh, look how hard he works. Look how hard she's working. Where gardening is like, I don't know. Are they a hard worker, or they just look like they're thinking? That's right. It takes time to think, to plan, to strategize. And there should be a healthier pace. It's funny, we all want this healthier pace, but we can't get out of our busyness. Because, again, it's identity. I got to look important. I got to look like I do something. Stop it. You can't expect the business to grow if you're not willing to grow yourself. So some of this is you have to look in the mirror and say, man, am I running to firefighting because it looks busy, because I'm avoiding the work that I need to do to grow myself? Am I avoiding some other work in my business because that might be uncomfortable? Well, what's going on there? You got to work through your head, right? 2 questions to help you move from reactive to active. Number one, like where do you need to grow to lead your business that's twice as big? When you think, I'm going to double my revenue, what does the business look like at that size? What do you look like? Maybe there's things in your job you have to give up in order to have the bandwidth to actually do what's needed at that level. What's your team going to look like? Who's on your team that is not going to have the capacity to run at that size? What positions might need to be shifted? Like, there's things that you have to do some thinking about. Depending on the size of your business, right? There's all kinds of complexities up and down the chain. With small businesses that are going to have complexities of hiring people. It's very hard for a business owner, sole proprietor, to give away responsibility because it's like, oh, this is my baby and I don't want you to mess things up. Well, guess what? Things are going to get a little messy. If you want to grow, things get a little messy. If you're part of a bigger organization, bigger business, and you have employees and things are going to get messy because you might have to fire some people. have to move some people around. You might have to, right? What's the famous business book? Who Moved My Cheese? You might have to move some cheese. That's going to upset some people. The way things were aren't the way things are anymore. It's the same thing like with firefighting. It's one thing to have an open door policy. It's another to just let anyone barge in whenever they want. I do not think that kind of open door policy is healthy, because you have a job to do, and your job isn't to just be the therapist for your company. Your job is to move things forward. And so there has to be tighter boundaries on that stuff. You have a job to do. You have things that you have to get done in order to move things forward, in order to create momentum. And if you just allow anyone to barge in at any time because you want to look like a caring boss, that's not caring, that's stupidity. You are not going to move things forward. And you're creating a culture then when people don't actually have to think through things, where they don't have to take ownership themselves. We can't do that. You need to create, right, business on a mission. This is what we do. We put a business on a mission. This is Donald Miller's framework, business made simple. Your business has to be on a mission. That mission statement that you create has to be about doing clear work to grow that business. You need to look at what it's going to take to double in revenue. How do we make that money? What needs to change? What will need to grow? Now, all of a sudden, you're thinking about growth, and you're thinking about the things that are keeping you from growth. What are the things, again, that are drawing your attention so that you're reactive instead of proactive? Now, here's the thing. We've talked about a few things. Let me just summarize again. Firefighting is the reactive posture that your week is dominated by other people. You are more reactive. You're responding to things that are coming at you instead of spending the majority of your time being proactive, leading the way forward, when you do meet with people, it's about pushing things forward, not just solving current problems. Now, again, problem solving is a part of leadership, but are you solving the right problems? Are you solving problems that aren't really problems? You're more of a therapist working through emotional drama between people on the team? Or are you solving problems that are actually plugs in the pipeline that are going to allow you to grow, allow you to get higher up in the air and soar? Think through, be honest with yourself, right? Perhaps you need help with this. Man, if we can get you clear, a mission helps you get clear, because people sometimes, when you have a culture of firefighting, it's not just you, it's all the way through. People just are always bringing things up to whoever's above them to solve instead of taking ownership. And that's going to kill your business from moving forward. And one of the key ways to get out of that mode is to have a clear mission statement so people see not only where the company is going, but how to get there. We need to hit these economic objectives so that we can move the ball forward. Now we're rowing in direction. Now our problems better be problems about this. They better not be other problems. They better not be non-articulated problems that if I bring to you, that I don't bring with clarity that you can actually speak into. So tune up your business. If you need help, this is one of the key actions that we do in flight school. We create a clear mission statement for your company in the year ahead that is all about how do we grow this business? How do we make a plan to increase, if not hopefully double our revenue? And so if you're interested, if you want to talk about what flight school looks like for you, hit me up. Go to smallbiz, B-I-Z, flight school, smallbizflightschool.com. Check it out, fill out the application, and let's set up a time to talk. I'd love to chat with you and see how we can help. So how are we going to take action today? How are we going to move from firefighting to gardening? How are we going to move from the chaos of putting out the daily fires of frustrations and move to growing something that actually is going to provide nourishment for us? Number one, I want you to hit reset. I want you just to have an honest talk with yourself and maybe with your leadership team and just say, okay, guys, is this us? Have we created a culture of firefighting? Have we created a culture where we're responding to fires that actually even aren't fires? We're just because it looks busy, because who knows why? Just have an honest conversation and say, is this us? And if it is, like, how do we create a culture of ownership? How do we get more people to take ownership first instead of passing the problems along? Then you want to talk about a culture of ownership, and then you want to talk about a mission, because what you own is the mission. If you don't have a clear mission, it's going to be hard to figure out what you're taking ownership over. Number one, hit reset. Number two, deal with the key fire starters. There's probably some key people who are really stuck in this mode. Just look at your schedule. Who are the people that continue to interrupt me and bring me problems that really aren't problems? Deal with the key fire starters. That will help give clarity on, and again, you don't have to, I'm not telling you to fire. I'm telling you to have a conversation. Just say, hey, I want to help you, but this is what help. I'm not helping you currently when you just come to me all the time and I solve things for you. We need to put some processes, some strategies in place so that you actually grow as a leader. I have you in this position so you can actually become better, so you can lead. And so have a conversation with them. Third, become intentional with gardening versus firefighting. Call it out. Look, keep tabs on your schedule. Is this a firefighting meeting? And how much firefighting? How many emails am I responding to that are firefighting? That are fires instead of gardening. Is this a gardening? Am I gardening here or am I firefighting? And even the way you respond, be careful not to get sucked in to the chaos of firefighting. Instead, be like, hey, if someone emails you and you're like, oh, I got to take this. No. You can just say, hey, this seems right now like a fire. I need it to be an opportunity for gardening. Can you clarify the problem? Can you clarify what you're seeking from me and get back to me? That will give me clarity on how to help you grow, how to help grow, how to help pull this weed. If it is a weed, is this a weed? Great. Let's pull it together and get the produce growing. But a lot of things aren't weeds. They're just weirdness. So hit reset, deal with the key fire starters, and become intentional with growth versus firefighting. Get into gardening mode and have a conversation with the team about that. We want to be gardeners, not firefighters. Firefighting is frantic, it's chaotic, and in business there will be plenty of real fires. So it's not like you're going to eradicate firefighting. There will be fires, but that shouldn't be the predominant thing. Gardening should be your way of life. Gardening is peaceful. There should be joy in the pace and the actions of life. And I hear this, man, I'm so stressed out. The business owners, I'm so stressed. Well, this is why. You live in a busyness culture. You live in a culture at work where there's too many fires and there's not enough gardening. Be in a mindset of gardening, and then things will actually grow. And I think there's just something toxic and like, well, if I'm not busy, like busyness equals growth. No, it doesn't. Busyness equals non-creativity, non-clarity, confusion. There's nothing good about being busy. What's good is about actually proactive work, right? You know when the gardener's the most busiest? When they plant, when they actually are I'm putting a seed that's going to turn into something in the ground. And then when I harvest, the busiest season for a gardener is harvest. And so if you want to be busy, then be busy about harvesting, not about weed pulling or watering, or those are all good activities, but there should be a pace to them. Be frantic about the harvest, okay? And now you get to choose. The firefighter seems heroic, but a gardener gets to eat from their work, right? So tune in next time. We're going to dig a little deeper into the mission of your organization. We're going to talk about how to move from profit to purpose. You want to ignite your team. You want to make sure you eradicate any idea of quiet quitting from your team. Tune in next time. We're going to talk about how do we move from profit to purpose. Until next time.